I have to confess, as a Bulls fan, I've always been a little bit lukewarm towards Tom Thibodeau. He's just never really been my guy as head coach of the Chicago Bulls. I don't know if that makes sense to some of you Bulls fans. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. However, I will say I can give the guy a lot of credit for this. He is a guy that has the ability to coach up the players that he has, and in often cases seems to get more out of the collective unit than many other coaches in the NBA could. I mean, there have been situations where Thibodeau has been dealt less than a stacked deck, if you will, and he seemed to do good with it or seemed to at least get something out of it. It always seems like the Bulls were competitive, that the Bulls at times would play above themselves in spite of injuries, in spite of everything else. But as we've gone throughout this 2014-2015 NBA season, there's kind of been this prevailing notion that this will be Tom Thibodeau's last season as head coach of the Chicago Bulls, and that maybe it's his time to go. And I've kind of been on the fence with this. On the one hand, I could see why people would think like that, but on the other hand, I say, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Just because you might want fresh blood or a new face, a new leadership, that doesn't mean that you'll necessarily like the results of what you get. Sometimes the best move to make is no move at all. So I haven't really jumped on the Thibodeau must go bandwagon or the Thibodeau must stay around, they're crazy to get rid of him type of bandwagon. I've been kind of one of those people, let's see how the season plays out, and then as that season plays out, that'll make the decision. And I think now for me, beyond question, if I didn't already think this, after watching the Bulls get boat raced in Cleveland in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, it's become clearly evident to me that the time has come and that Tom Thibodeau must go. He can't be back next season. And I don't care if the Bulls find a way to win this series that they probably won't. I don't care if they found a way to not only just get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but even win the Eastern Conference Finals and made it to the NBA Finals. This team is not winning an NBA championship this year. They'll be lucky to win this series that they're in right now. And at some point in time, you have to ask yourself, if the guy that you have running the show, calling the shots on a day-to-day basis, isn't getting the job done and isn't getting you to that championship level that you believe this team should be at, then why do you have that coach? Because all it ends up being is a big dick tease and a whole bunch of waste of time. So I'm sitting there watching Game 2, and LeBron comes out incredibly aggressive. Maybe it's the headband. Who the hell knows? Who the hell cares? LeBron plays like the star that he frankly should play like more consistently in big-time games and big-time situations. He comes out aggressive and ready to roll, and the Cavaliers are knocking down shots, in particular in the first quarter, all over the place, left and right. They can't miss. And all the while, the Bulls can't hit the blind side of the ocean. They can't hit the freaking barn. They're terrible. Their shots are off, and not just off by a little bit. They're way off. Layups, mid-range jumpers, three-pointers. It doesn't matter. They're missing everything. There's no offensive rhythm. There's no anything. The Cavaliers are scoring at will. The Bulls can't do anything to stop them, and the Bulls can't score them damn selves. And after one quarter, it's 38-18. And you already knew where this game was headed. You already knew that there was no point really in playing the next three quarters. But then what transpired over the next three quarters to me really sealed the deal for my feelings on Tom Thibodeau and why this asshat must finally go. I've had it with him. This is enough. After the first quarter, where the Cavaliers are on fire and LeBron is aggressive and you can't hit a shot to save your freaking life, here's Tom Thibodeau talking about the same old boring, played-out, tired bullshit of we've got to defend better, we've got to have more effort, we've got to play with more energy, we've got to keep after it, it's the small things. And I say, Christ almighty, have we ever heard a so-called alleged championship team have their energy level and effort more consistently questioned than the Chicago Bulls of this season? Especially for Chicago fans and people in Chicago, you know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. How many times have we talked about this energy and effort level throughout the regular season with the Bulls, and frankly, even in the playoffs with that first-round series with the Bucks? They go up 3-0, and then they lose two straight. Yeah, they decimated them in Game 6, but it should have never gotten to that point. Instead of sweeping a team that, for all intents and purposes, they should have swept, they found a way to let the series go 6 games, which I think is starting to backfire on them when it comes to this Cavaliers series. And all the while, here he is talking about the same old crap, that it's defense, defense, defense. And look, Defense can win you championships in the NBA. There is no question about that. And for all the talk about the 90s Bulls and Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and their greatness and Phil Jackson and the triangle offense, what people often forget is that the real identity of that team was their defensive abilities. Of the Jordans, the Pittmans, the Rodmans. They forget that Phil Jackson is not an offensive-based coach. He's actually a defense-first coach. And people that really know and understand the game and understand and know Phil Jackson and those 90s Bulls clearly get that and understand that. But there comes a point in time where it can't just always be about your defense and your energy level. You know, sometimes your defense can create offense for you. I get that and I understand that. But at some point in time, if not only can you not stop them, but they're throwing up some great lucky shots and they're hitting them, and you can't score, sometimes you need your offense to get your defense going as well. And when I hear him sitting there talking about the same old crap, and then it produces the same old lackluster, ineffective result, I start to ask myself, what the hell is this guy doing? Does he not understand the problem that he's facing? This is a Bulls team that isn't as good defensively as they have been in years past, regardless of what the media members will try to tell you. They just haven't been as good defensively as in years past. And all the while, yes, they may have improved on the offensive end. There's no question about that with the addition of Paul Gasol and the emergence of Jimmy Butler. This is still a team at times that can get very stagnant in the half-court offense. This is a team that at times can go through ugly stretches of offensive basketball where they get too bogged down in the half-court. They become too much about isolation. They become too much about the pick and roll, and they struggle to put the ball in the hoop. This is a team that's not as good defensively and still at times can fall into some of those old bad habits of previous Thibodeau coach Bulls teams that really goes through some ugly stretches of offensive basketball. So you're sitting there and you're looking to see what type of adjustments he's going to make in the second quarter. And he doesn't make any. He sits there instead of emphasizing one of the real strengths of this Bulls roster, and that is their depth and their flexibility in terms of what they could do with different lineups. He pretty much runs through the same 7 to 8 guys. There's no Mirotic. There's no Snell. At some point in time, you would think in this series, whether he's banged up or not, that if he's healthy enough to suit up, you would figure out a way to play Nikola Mirotic. You look at the big fucking Serbian fuck with his beard and his ability to break people down off of the dribbles, perhaps create his own shot, God forbid actually hit the occasional outside shot. And you might say, hey, we're down 20 points in the first freaking quarter. Let's roll the dice and see what we got. But instead, we continue to sit out there and trot out Joakim freaking Noah, who serves absolutely no freaking purpose in this series whatsoever. If he isn't blocking shots, which he clearly isn't, as you saw in Game 2, he didn't block a single one. If Derrick Rose is getting as many rebounds as Joakim Noah in Game 2, which should never freaking happen, because the only thing Joakim Noah is supposed to be able to do is rebound, block some shots, and play some defense in the post, which he doesn't need to play post defense in this series, and God knows when he tries, he's doing a miserable job of it, then why the fuck do you still roll out Joakim Noah? And then furthermore, on top of it, this is one of the real reasons Thibodeau should be fired. Who the fuck thinks it's a good idea to have Joakim Noah be in the backup point guard? How ridiculous is it to see a guy with no offensive skills, no ball skills, sitting there and bringing the damn ball up the court? If your name isn't Derrick Rose or Jimmy Butler in the starting lineup, then you shouldn't be advancing the ball up the fucking court. Yet time after time after time, we see Joakim Noah do this. And then the Bulls' half-court offense, which already has its problems with stagnation, bogs down 13 times more because this jackass Joakim Noah is standing out there at the top of the key. Look at me, I can pass, I facilitate the offense. No, you don't facilitate shit. You create nothing but problems. You are no real threat on the pick and roll because even when you do get the ball in your hands, more often than not, you can't figure out a way after almost a decade in the fucking league to put the ball in the goddamn hoop. And yet you continue to do this. And he's being guarded by LeBron, one of the best defenders in the NBA. So yes, let's keep Noah out there, and let's bring Noah out to the freaking top of the key, so that way it gets LeBron involved in the perimeter defense. That way he can help out. He can rotate on the pick and roll. And it makes no fucking sense. As much as it pisses me off to see Joakim Noah be so incredibly overrated by so many with his importance to the team. No, he's become an anchor and a burden, not a help to this damn Bulls roster. Thibodeau keeps doing the same fucking shit. And it doesn't work. All the while, you've got guys that could bring you something different, specifically a Mirotic, a guy who could bring you some matchup problems for the Cavaliers on the offensive end, and you don't go with them. You don't roll them out there until the game is already well out of freaking hand. Even a guy like Tony Snell, an athletic, rangy guy who can occasionally knock down an open jumper, why not bring him out there? Why not throw him at LeBron? Why not sit there and do different things with him? Why not go small? Why not play Gasol more at the 5? No, it's the same old tired out Bulls bullshit under Thibodeau. And when you look at talking about in-game adjustments, with the Cavaliers in the lineup they rolled with in Game 2, they played Tristan Thompson and Tom, and they threw Kendrick Perkins in there. Now, usually I'm not a huge proponent of the hack-a-shack type of philosophy, and I really hate how it slows down the game and everything else. And in some ways, I think it's kind of chicken shit basketball. But at the end of the day, if these guys as professionals aren't good enough to sit there and hit the fucking free throws, then you've got to take advantage of that. You're down 20 points. The Cavaliers are at home. Their crowd is into it. The players are pumped up. You've got all this energy, all this momentum on the Cavaliers side. The easiest way to change that is to slow the game down. Take the ball out of LeBron's hands. Take the ball out of Kyrie Irving's hands. And you put Thompson and Perkins on the freaking free throw line to where they'll either make free throws and it just is what it is, or they miss free throws and they miss them enough to the point where it slows down the game, allows you to break that momentum cycle, allows you to get back into the goddamn game, and maybe you have to get Thompson and Perkins out of there if you're Dave Blatt and the Cavaliers. You got Tristan Thompson owning Joakim Noah down low. Again, why the fuck is Noah down there in the lineup at all if he's not going to bring anything to the table? And clearly in the first 2 games of the series, he has brought nothing. And don't let anybody, idiots or otherwise, tell you he has. He has brought Bupkis bullshit. And all the while, you've got Tristan Thompson and Kendrick Perkins, 2 poor free throw shooters on the floor all throughout the game, and not once do they employ the hack-a-shack type of philosophy. You've got guys like Doug McDermott on the bench. He's got 6 fouls to burn up, fucking burn through them. And maybe, just maybe on the offensive end, he hits an open shot or 2 and you realize, hey, maybe I've got another shooter. God knows you needed somebody that could hit open shots in Game 2. You got Nazir Muhammad on the bench. Why can't you utilize his 6 fouls? If you got to ugly it up, you got to slow it down in order to get yourself back into the ballgame, then that's exactly what the fuck you do. Instead of sitting there and failing to adjust to the pick and roll that the Cavaliers ate your asses alive on in Game number 2. Instead of trotting Joakim Noah out there like he's going to have any impact in this fucking series at all. Instead of sitting there and benching Nikola Mirotic for the 2nd straight game because you're an incompetent idiot, maybe you try to do things differently. You say, hey, we're down 20 points in the first quarter. Basically, everything we've fucking done hasn't worked, so let's try something different. Seriously, Mirotic, runner-up to Andrew Wiggins for Rookie of the Year, and you don't play him. A 6'10 stretch 4 that could cause all types of problems for the Cavaliers, and you don't utilize them. And this whole notion of, well, he might struggle on the defensive end. Well, you hide him on Kendrick Perkins. You hide him on Tristan Thompson. It doesn't fucking matter. Because if you can't score more points, you ain't winning shit any damn ways. It's just ridiculous. And it's this frustration as I watch Game 2. The failure to use the hack-a-shack philosophy. The failure to recognize that Joakim Noah isn't doing shit for you other than hurting your team, hurting your defense, hurting your post presence, hurting your offense, hurting every fucking thing. The failure to utilize guys like Mirotic and Snell that you utilized throughout the regular season consistently, which was one of the strengths of your team, was your bench depth. Now, you've done what so many other chicken shit NBA coaches do. They sit there and they constrict, and they get conservative, and they narrow down their bench instead of going with what got him to the fucking dance. And it's that failure to recognize the reality of the situation in that particular night. It's always falling back into those same old excuses of we got to defend better, we got to have more energy, we got to have more effort. No, at some point in time, damn it, you got to do shit different. And at some point in time, your offense has to get your defense going too. It's unbelievable. Oh, and then furthermore, get the ball to fucking Gasol! And no way on God's green earth should Joakim Noah be touching the ball more in any type of offensive philosophy than a Paul Gasol. How the fuck can the Bulls not figure out how to get the ball to Gasol after 2 games of this series? Absolutely blows my ever-loving fucking mind. If I haven't convinced you by now, I don't know what the hell will. But the bottom line is Thibodeau's a bum. Tom Thibodeau must go.